Mayoral Memo with Matho Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
93.5 Triple M. I'm with the Mayor, Matho Dickerson. Matthew, how are you this morning, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Always good to be chatting to you. Thanks for giving me your time.
No, thanks for lending your time. I know you're a busy man. Speaking of being busy, the weekend was busy. We had touch footy on. It was touted as being a really big event for Dubbo. What's been the wash-up so far?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, didn't you? Busy, busy, busy. It was a huge number of people. The estimation was probably 8,500 people were injected into our community over the weekend, talking to New South Wales Touch, talking to Dubbo Touch, talking to the parents and the coaches and the players. An absolutely fantastic weekend. That's been held typically at Port Macquarie over the last few years, although it's been rained out the last couple of years, which is why we got the opportunity to host it here. The feedback from the people involved was really positive in the fact that we had all those fields, 30 playing fields altogether. We basically had the perimeter cordoned off so you couldn't drive through that area. And then when the parents and coaches turned up with their teams for the weekend or for each day, they'd park their car and then they'd just be able to walk around that whole area. So they felt very safe there. They loved how close the fields were all together. And the fields, for anyone that went down there, the fields looked absolutely magnificent. In fact, I had one parent that I was talking to and I walked around there on the Friday and a little bit on the Saturday morning and just talked to some random people. And one person said, wow, the fields look fantastic. Who did you get in to get your fields looking so good? And I said, well, our staff actually are capable of doing this sort of thing. So it was just looking absolutely magnificent to the point where they did think people were brought in from the outside. A couple of people actually thought when they turned up there, they looked across them and thought we had synthetic fields there because they looked just so smooth and so spot on. So really positive there. Obviously, hospitality businesses, pubs, motels, a lot of those businesses did really well out of the weekend with so many people in.
Yeah, they would have. And look, there's probably a lot of people to thank, but the council, I think, did a great job of the traffic diversion and the New South Wales Touch and Dubbo Touch. Everyone did a great job, probably 1 million people to thank. But I'm just very grateful. It looks like, hopefully, fingers crossed, we did a great job and we'll get a chance to do it next year. Now, moving on to another thing that's a bit more controversial, the fourth McDonald's. It's been blowing up on social media. What's your take on it, Mayor?
Well, it's actually interesting. There was a DA lodged for fourth McDonald's, and I had a few people, and a few people from the media, and just a few people in general saying, what are you going to do about this? This is terrible. We don't need four McDonald's. Now, as an individual councillor, I have no specific opinion about McDonald's as a business being good, bad, or indifferent. My job as a councillor, if that comes to council for a decision, is basing a DA on the technical details of the DA. Is it in the right zoning? Is the setback from the sides or the edges of the property correct? Is the building being made in a correct way, construction-wise? Is it going to fall down? That type of thing. And we're relying on our professional staff for a lot of that assessment. We don't really, as a council, you don't really have an opinion about the viability of a business, the colour of a business, the type of products that they're selling, as long as, again, the zoning is correct for the type of products that someone's selling there. So it's a really interesting one. If McDonald's think that they can support four McDonald's in the community and they lodge a DA, then we just assess the DA based on those technical details. So if everything assesses okay and everything looks okay, then it'll go through. And a lot of those DAs don't even come to councillors. It's got to be, there's a few trigger points there. The DA's got to be over $5 million before it comes to a council meeting, or there's got to be 2 councillors who specifically request to come to council, or you can have 8 people around the area where a DA might be applicable for that can lodge a protest letter or petition, if you like, to council to say, please take it to council. Or the other critical one is if our staff are recommending for a DA to be refused, staff don't have the delegated power to actually refuse a DA. That has to come to council. But you can imagine there's hundreds of DAs that get lodged each month with council. We don't see most of them. We might see 1 or 2 a month. This one might even not even come to council for a decision. But again, if it does, then the staff and the councillors are looking at that on a technical basis, not on our opinion of what we think of McDonald's.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people are complaining about it, and you know, you have your right to your opinion. I still think if you don't like it, don't go.
That's right.
I think that's that should be pretty straightforward. And if it wasn't popular, it wouldn't be built.
That's right.
I don't think you can blame Macca's. I think you just look at the people around you. Anyway,
Matho, they'd have their formula. Macca's would have their formula. They've got over 1,000 McDonald's restaurants across the nation. They'd have their formula based on population, traffic flow, demographics of the community, and then how much a McDonald's can handle based on that. They're not going to lodge a DA from McDonald's if they don't think it's going to be a viable business.
Yeah, I've never seen a McDonald's shut. Just never. They just know what they're doing. Real quickly, another thing a little bit controversial, I guess, only because it involves penalties, is the trial of the automated parking metering, I guess you call it. What's this one?
This one's one where I actually sat in this car there last week where I got a chance to sit with our parking officers, and we've only got 2 parking officers, and they walk the streets of Dubbo, put a bit of chalk on your tyre the old-fashioned way, and then if you've been there for too long, then obviously they or issue you with a fine. And we've got opportunities to look at doing some private work with that. So in other words, Maya car park is a private car park, but we do some monitoring on that. And we've been approached by some other areas, both in Dubbo and Wellington, to do some private inspections. But then we start to get to the point, do we employ more people to do that? And those private inspections, they're a contract basis. So we get paid, for example, by Maya to do the Maya car park. We're looking at ways to do it more efficiently. And so there is a method where you can actually have cameras mounted on a car. They feed information back, do some AI with their reading of number plates and then seeing how long they've been there for. Obviously, you loop back around and it takes photos of those. And so I sat in the car for about 15 minutes the other day as we went and drove around the streets of Dubbo, and the technology was quite fascinating. So the camera was very accurate in its pictures it was taking of the actual number plates and reading those. And then as we drove along Talbragar Street and Macquarie Street, the little computer in the car as we drove along was going bing, bing. And I said to the parking officers, what's that going all the time? So that's every person that's over their allotted time in those parking spots. So there were a lot more people over their time than normally would be caught by our parking officers because they can only do so many as they walk the streets. So I know some people worry about this being all about revenue raising, but it is about looking after those businesses in the CBD and making sure there's enough turnover of cars in those businesses or at the front of those businesses so they can get good people going through and basically visiting those businesses. So it is a really important thing throughout the CBD to make sure that happens, that turnover of parking spots happens. It's not about trying to change the parking zones. If it's a 1 hour parking zone, you park for 1 hour, you're right. Now, at this stage, it's only been a trial. It cost us nothing for that trial. The company that's trying to sell us that equipment said, here you go, use this for a couple of months, and then we'll make a decision about whether we implement that. But from what I saw in the brief amount of time I looked at it, it looked pretty efficient.
Yeah, I guess you're never going to make people happy because finding people is just, it's harsh coming back to your car with a parking fine. But, I've worked in businesses along those major roads, and it's like, can you please move on? We want to get our customers in here. So it is tricky. So you never know. The future is scary, I think, sometimes, but it's there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. And we actually have got another trial that we're running at the moment concurrently with that trial we just ran. We've got 150 parking spots in our CBD. They've actually got a sensor buried into the road, and when a car is over one of those sensors for longer than the allotted time, our parking officers get a message that goes through a device they carry with them to tell them to go to bay number 22. Someone's been parked there for too long. So we're trialling different types of technology to see which is going to be the best way to go forward.
Man, Matthew Dickinson, thank you so much for lending yourself this morning. I know you're a busy man, and we'll chat in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great. Thanks, Matho.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.